Hi everyone. I don't know who's going to actually join me, and that's okay. If no one joins me, that's fine too. I had put up a poll in the group just asking who would like to see me try and redo my coloring of the flower from class 4. I wasn't happy with it. I was happy with my demo one, and I think I just ended up getting a little too muddy with my paint. I was a little too impatient. So, but I also didn't want you guys being here all forever. Sorry, my arm's in the way. I'm just gonna make sure I'm live. Looks like, well, that's from yesterday. Oh, I wish my computer would let me see my video right away. There we are. Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm just gonna enlarge it. No, I want to enlarge it. Not. Here we go. Good morning. Here we go again. I'll bring in the flower that I did during the class for anyone who might have missed that. Oops, I've got to be plugged into my laptop too so that my phone charges. Sorry guys, I'm just going to adjust here. Anyway, I feel like this got a little muddier than I liked. So I have been practicing with the Fruity Fun set. I did a whole bunch of watermelons. I've already sent that card over to Kim, so I don't have it available, but I did practice a little bit, so hopefully, I think I figured out why my thing went muddy on me. And hopefully I can reteach you guys how to do this. So I know not everyone can attend the live here. I'm gonna try and only be like half an hour at most. I did stamp some of the strawberries too from the Fruity Fun set, just to have, because I need to let some layers dry. So I have something else to do while I'm waiting for some layers to dry. I may have to rotate my panel a little bit here and there, just so I'm not dipping my sleeve into my flowers. And actually, I think what I'll do is I'll move one of the strawberries over there. There shouldn't be too much in the way. Anyway, this got a little muddier than I liked, and I really liked my sample one, so I'm gonna retry it. I'm gonna still use the same inks, but I am gonna add in maybe mellow mustard. I know that wasn't on the list, and we may not need to. I'll let you know when I do, if I do. So I'm just gonna push this to the side, and I'm gonna get started right away. I do have 2 water brushes this time, just in case I like one for the thinner lines. I have this one. I believe I used probably for the thinner lines last time. Just making sure there's no ink added on there. See a little bit green, but I think it's just, yeah, it's fine. So we'll use that for the thinner lines when we add our darker color. And then I have a thicker one, which is the one I used for class. And there's still some pink from my watermelons. So just making sure that's mainly taken care of. Again, a paintbrush might give you more control too. I'm going to start by adding water to the petals. So just adding some clean water up here into the petals. There's a little bit of pink still on my brush, but that's fine. It'll be covered with ink. I'm just saturating the petal. I already heat embossed this with the white heat embossing. And then I'm going to grab my Yummy Yellow, add a little bit to my palette, which is just my glass mat. And then this time, because I want a really light layer, I'm going to bring in my spray bottle and add just a little dot of water there too. So that way I can kind of go over here, just grab a little bit. But it'll be a little bit lighter than what I did when I originally did this. And I'm just dropping in the color. Then I'm going to wipe off my brush. And just going to do some clear water here. I'm just going petal by petal this time instead of trying to rush and do all the petals at once. Again, dipping into my water mix with my yellow, Yummy Yellow, and dropping the ink in, and I'm just dabbing it in. wiping off my, sorry, I'll move this over a little bit, wiping off my, my little pen here, my little water brush, adding some water in there. And again, you're just repeating it over and over again. But by doing this, it'll make it a little bit lighter for our first layer, which I like. It got too dark on my one in my class. Again, going, and I'm going to go in order this time because I did jump around quite a bit last time too. Well, clean water. Did you enjoy the retreat, Linda? I hope you got to do some of the classes live. And even if you didn't, I always used to watch the classes and then come back and do them when I had a free moment. I hope we inspired you. Oops. Clean water. I'm dipping back into my mix. Got a little dark there, so I'm going to take some of the ink off to spread out what I have here. Sorry, I forgot to zoom in too. Let's see, will it work today? First try? Nope. Second try? Nope. Okay. Oh, it's Canson XL watercolor, so it's just the cheap stuff from Michael's. And then I got to move this down. Except now, sorry guys. I'm gonna move my camera back a little bit too, so you can still see my palette and the image. Hopefully I don't make you guys seasick. There. You can't see where my yellow is, but I'll move this over a bit and then hopefully you can see my little puddle there. Again, just wiping off my brush. You always do this on your finger if you're not sure if you have water coming out of it. And then I'm just adding, again, just clear water. Might be a tiny bit of yellow in there, but that's okay. Then going over to my palette and picking up some of the yellow. Just dabbing it in from the base of the petal and working it way up. Because there's water on there, the ink should come up the petal too. Now we're going to have to let that dry. So I'm going to just keep my puddle there of yellow. I'm just going to clean off my brush. And I'm going to move this over slightly. I'll make sure you guys can see what I'm doing ink-wise, so I might have to clean this off a few times, just since I zoomed in. And I have the strawberries. If you had done the add-on kit, you would have got the Fruity Fun set. I'm just going to color these strawberries in so that I can let my first layer dry. I could go over here to this flower, but I'm going to let this dry and then I'm going to just repeat what we just did here over here. But first I'm just going to add some clean water to the strawberry base. Multitasking like this is a good idea if you're impatient like me. And that way you can have more than one image on the go. I'm going to have a few of this. If you wanted to remake the same card a few times, you could. I'm pulling in mostly melon for the strawberry. And again, just taking a little bit of a spray bottle with some water. You guys can't see that, but here, it's fine. And just making sure this is nice and watery. And then I'm going to dab in the color over here too. Strawberry is fun because all the seeds were embossed, so it should make for pretty watercolor piece. Okay, dab that off, and I will do the strawberry too. Oops. I'm just dabbing off into a tissue. What are you up to today, Kim? if you're still here. Okay, I have this is just a casual, just chat. I have my mom coming over and helping me move a bookcase into the basement, so all my pattern or all my cardstock's not upstairs. Just wipe that away. You don't have to. You could use your whole palette and just keep all of it. Oh, cool. That's a big task, I bet. So I'm just adding the yummy yellow in again and some of the water. I cleaned my brush off because I don't necessarily want pink in with my yellow. Now I'll go over here, and again we're just gonna follow the steps. Just adding the yellow, or adding clean water over to the petals. This one over here is pretty small, so I did do 2 petals. And then just bringing that up. I have to add some more tape behind here. As you can see, it's a lot lighter color. Oops, a lot lighter color than what I did originally on class 4. And I did that. It's even kind of the buttercream yellow I wanted originally to make. So you could leave it very pale. I am going to add some dimension into it though. I just want the first layer to be very light. Thank you for those who voted in the poll to let me know if I should just redo it. I wasn't going to send this card. I think my grandmother wants this card, so I am going to try and do a good job for her. She deserves it. She's always begging me for more adult cards, so for her, for like her friends. So that's what I'm going to use this card for. Just again, dabbing in, a little darker there. So just brush off my ink. Okay, now this part should be dry, so now I'm going to go in a little bit more with just the yellow. And I'm going to come up again from the bottom. And I'm just adding strokes up. Now I'm going kind of dry instead of a wet. And then I'm going to clean off my brush, dab into my water, and just blend that up. But by adding dry, I'm adding a little bit darker color here. And this will make it look more watercolory than I did the other day too, is by pulling the ink up. And you may want to just be like, wow, I like just how soft that is, and I decide I don't want to add the darker color in, and that's fine. You do you. Oops. Have to add the water up in here. But by adding water, this ink's going to pull up into the flower petal. Dry off with my brush. And then I'm just adding a bit of the water from my water puddle. Look over here. And you're just adding layers until you like it. It does take some time to do it this way, but I think I'll be happier with the results. Always probably not a good idea to dab with your finger, but I'm going to. It's all dry over here too, so I'll just put a little bit more yummy yellow on my palette. Grab it with my brush. And then I'm just going to come over here and add it just about halfway up the petal. Wipe off my brush, grab it with the water, come down and meet it into the puddle, or into the darker ink. some of the water. What else can I talk to you guys about? I had a hard week at work. I work at a vet clinic, and I'm trying to get, we're having a lot of cats who are not happy with us. It is part of the business, but it is hard when there's only 2 of us to restrain some kitties when they're not happy. So yeah, on Friday, I had a very unhappy kitty in the clinic. And I tried my best to just go with the flow and let her kind of come to me. But she wasn't having any of it. So we ended up having to postpone her procedure and get her to come back with some meds on board. And I just felt like, oh, you know, I need to be a little bit braver with the kitties, but that got a little bit of a line, which I don't like. So I'm just gonna blend that out a bit more. There, it's better. I don't like doing that, but when Kitty's upset, it's better for her stress levels too if we just medicate her. But it was hard. I was trying to make friends with her and she was just not having it. But we've gone from having a few of us working at the clinic to just me and the doctor for most days. I do have an assistant who comes and helps out on occasion, but she's doesn't come in every day. So I'm just going to go back over to my strawberry. Add more mostly melon down. I do need to re-ink my mostly melon. It's starting to get a little dry. And I'm going to basically do what I just did here. Add some water. Sorry, you can't see my palette, but I just dabbed the ink pad onto my glass mat here. Starting at the top, and I'm just dragging this down. I did clean off my brush so that it wouldn't be at the end of the world if you had a bit of yellow on there. It kind of adds a nice glow to your strawberries. Sometimes I'll add yellow, just the bottom of my strawberries. I'm just going to dab a tiny bit more up here, just to get a little bit more ink down since this color is very light. And then just blending that up with clean water. Okay, now is this dry? It is. So I'm just going to pull in my photo from when I did my original one. I think, yeah, definitely, this is definitely a lot lighter than my original, like the sample one. So I'm just going to go in one more time with my Yummy Yellow. Clean my palette off here. Could just keep it, but I find if the ink sits on the palette too long, that is something else. If you're doing this, you may want to continually clean the palette a little bit from the ink. Yeah, you could use a re-inker. I find the re-inker is very dark. Like it's very concentrated, Debbie. So I do find that I just want a little bit more control with my color. But you definitely can use re-inker. So just adding more Yummy Yellow. And again, I know this is kind of repetitive, but now I'm going to add in a darker layer. This time I'm going to add quite a bit more ink and add some water to darken that up a bit. Come over here. Got too much ink on there, you dab it off on your tissue and blend that out. And that's how I watercolor with regular watercolors too, is it just kind of go in layers. I don't go full force into the ink. So it's what I should have done in class 4 to begin with. Just letting the layers dry too, so I didn't go really concentrated and then go, oh, I don't like that. We're just building up our layers instead. I was actually looking at how daffodils are colored with like people who do a lot of floral watercolors, and I definitely doing mine in a more of a simpler way. But it is something that I would like to practice doing, because again, my grandmother would love to have more what she calls mature stamps or mature cards for her to give her friends. Personally, I'm like, I like the whimsical nature of our stamps, but each their own. Everyone has different opinions. So I said, well, I do have some floral stamps coming up next, and she said, oh, that'd be perfect. So I don't mind redoing this so that I can give her one, and so that she can give to her friends. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the middle here. I'm just going to wipe off the yummy yellow. And I am going to start with my Marvelous Mocha. I'm going to water that down. Sorry, I can't see my palette. Oops. So I'll make sure that my strawberries are in. Okay, I'm just wiping off the yellow. Not that it matters. I did put yellow in here. And I'm just adding clear water to the middle. It does have some yellow still on it, but that's fine. Just add a little bit more with the water that I dripped onto the mat. And then I'm going to go in with my Marvelous Mocha and just start dabbing in color. This will be pretty light and pale right now, but just like everything else, we're going to build up our color. And I definitely, once I saw how daffodils are colored, I definitely didn't do the middle part like how a daffodil is, but that's okay. I'm going to try and follow my sample one. Brushing off the ink pad, I'm going to do the stems next because I'm trying to wait for the yellow to dry. So I grabbed Fresh Fields for that. No, did I? Sorry. Yes. Well, I'm grabbing Fresh Fields. If I said something other green, then use the other green if you already grabbed it out. And same thing, I already have water. You know what? It's okay if it, well, I want you guys to see what I'm doing. Okay, there is Fresh Field dabbed onto my mat here. I'm just adding some water. And I'm just going to come down the stems. And add this in very lightly. And then over here. Very pale right now, but again, we're going to add layers. So it's okay. I'd actually just go in with a tiny bit more back here. And over here. And it's looking a lot more watercolory, which is what I wanted. I might as well do the green on my strawberries here. I'm just gonna move my palette or my thing over a little bit and down. So we're just gonna add a little bit to the top of my strawberries. Did really, really heat emboss that perfectly. So I'm just gonna pull in my head, sorry, you can see my awful hair right now, just to make sure that I was in the lines. Okay, that feels pretty dry. Just clean up my palette. So now, what I ended up doing, because I want to keep kind of the light color of this, is I'm gonna add my shading in now. You want to wait till it's dry though, and then you're going to blend a little bit. So we're going to take our Marvelous Mocha, and I am going to take some water. Just pick up the brown. All right, so starting with this petal, I'm just going to add just a little bit of the shading just to the bottom part of it. And I'm pulling it up. Then I'm going to wipe off my brush and come over to this one. And I'm just adding shading just to the bottom part of the petal and up a little bit on the sides. I am doing it pretty watery right now because I don't want it too dark. Got a little dark there. It's okay. So I could just wipe it off. Not very much brown left. I have to. My Marvelous Mocha needs to be re-inked too. But this will just add a little bit of a shadow underneath our streaks that we're going to put on there. I'm just dabbing in some more of my brown. Come over to here. Wiping off my brush, blending that up a bit so it's not such a harsh line. So that's the other problem I had last time. And this will be mainly covered with our streaks once we add our streaks, but it's still nice to kind of soften up the edge. Going here. And by adding your dark in, you're gonna, then once the white will really pop off of the flower petals when we clean up our embossing powder areas. Other thing you could do with yellow to shade is you could use like a purple, especially if you're doing like trying to get more of a buttercream look to it. That could be an option. Since I had the Marvelous Mocha out, I'm gonna add it to my stem here, just up here at the top. And kind of coming down the left side of it. And since I added more here, and then now go kind of dry and dry, dab that in. I'm just making little dots. And then what I'll do, because it's a little harsh, is clean off my brush, add a little bit of water, and dab the water in. Just to make it blend a little bit. Oh, hi Sabrina. Just redoing my class 4. Just felt like the flowers got a little darker than I wanted and a little muddy. So we're taking our time today. It's already almost half an hour. Okay, well, not gonna panic. Anyone who doesn't want to watch what I'm doing, because I'm kind of just repeating the same steps, feel free to watch it later if you want. But we're basically just trying to go lightly so that I don't have a muddy mess. My strawberries, I'm going to add Bashful Blush in. I kind of like the pale color right now, but I'm just going to add a tiny bit of Bashful Blush onto my palette. Add a bit of water. just to make it soft. And I'm going to come in at the top here. I'm going to add that in. And just coming down the sides a little bit. Add shading around the side. Washing off my brush. Using clean water and blending that a little bit. Yeah, I'm trying to go softer than my class one. You weren't there, I don't think, for that. It just got really muddy and dark, and I didn't like it at all. So I'm trying to go step by step, taking my time a little bit. So I know you guys all have other things probably to do, but thank you for joining me. I am seeing if these petals are dry, and they are. Nice thing is this dries really fast. So now we're going to go in and we are going to add our rich rust, which is going to be like our main primary brown, onto our petals. So just going to push that in. And we're going to go pretty much like there is water in my brush, but I want to add darker streaks. So I'm changing my brush to a thinner one. The only problem with this one I find is it does you have to be really careful not to push too hard on it. It likes to add lots of water. And basically I'm just going to take little strokes and go up the side of it, the bottom of this. Just kind of coming around the base first and then straight. Just doing like we do with hair. Just little mini strokes. And I'll add some texture into it. Yes, I was going to add mellow mustard to it. I do, like in my example one, I didn't use mellow mustard, so I'm just kind of trying to use the same colors. I probably rotated my paper too, but this is looking a little bit better too. I'm going to add a glaze of the yellow over top after. So just kind of doing strokes from the side, from the bottom. Just dry on dry. And this paintbrush likes to add a lot of water. And if you want to soften any areas, you want to kind of do it while it's still wet. This is already dried, but I am softening it a little bit. Just trying to pull some strokes up a little bit higher. That just gives you a little bit of shading. Oh, okay, have a good day, Linda. Have fun with the grandkids. Then coming over here, same thing. Stroking that up. Each petal. If you're worried about it too dark, you can just wipe off your brush and just add a little bit more in. Of clean water. I think I definitely got thinner lines with this pen than I did with the other one. Might do what Sabrina suggested and add Marvelous Mustard in. Try and keep things light, but still have a little bit of a shadow too. I got a little too blended. All right, for my strawberry, I'm gonna switch pens back over to my pinks. Add a little bit of ruby red. Add a drop of water. And then just like we did before, just adding that to the top base part. And do both since it's such a small area. Then I'm going to wipe off my pen. And you can always dab into your water and just blend that out. I'm not going to blend it all the way to the bottom because I do want a little bit more of that other color to show through. I kind of like the pale of the strawberries, so other than maybe adding a little bit more green up here, I think I'm going to call the strawberries done. So we do have to wait for that to dry. I'm going to add a tiny bit more of the fresh field to the stems. This time I'm going in without adding a lot of water, so I want it a little bit darker. I'm just coming down the stem with both of these. By adding the darker brown underneath, it'll add a little bit of a shadow, and then you can just blend that out with clean water. I'm going to come over to my strawberries and just do up here, same thing. Try and keep it pretty pale. Like the softness that I'm getting, but I also want to make sure you know that it's got a stem up here. Bye, Sabrina. Have a good day. So now I'm going back into my Marvelous Mocha, and I'm just going to dab in more color here once this area is dry. You're just, like I said, building up color. Then I'm going to take my small pen again and wipe off my palette. And I'm going to add more Marvelous Mocha down. And then just starting at the bottom of my petals, just working my way up. Just adding a little bit more shadowing. But by doing this step by step, I can kind of have a bit more control over where my dark is versus my light. And because I'm using a water brush, I do lose a little bit of control, but I would normally use a paintbrush if I'm watercoloring instead. But sometimes you do what you have at hand. Oops. But like I said, just adding your shadows in, and then we're going to add a little bit more rich rust once that dries. Just make it a little bit more of a reddish tone. Coming over here, adding that back in. My shadows are. This time I kind of want the streaks, so I'm not blending it out with water. Just make a shadow around that area there. Sorry, I'm going to turn my paper a bit. Just did that petal already. Okay. So now we're adding a little bit of dimension, but we still got a lot lighter petals than I did when I did the class, so I like that. And I have to let that dry. I'm going to add a little... I don't want to overdo it, but I need to get the little stem in here, so I'm going to add a bit more of our Fresh Field ink. Now I'm going to go in with my thin brush. There is the little stem up here. I want to make sure I hit that. And you can always use this one to draw in a little bit of a shadow around where the stem is. Like I said, trying to keep it kind of pale, but I do want to add a little bit of a shadow there. Wiping off my pen, just drawing it a little bit down, just to soften that. Okay. One thing I like to do with strawberries is sometimes I like to add just the tiniest bit of a yellow glow to it. So I'm just pulling in my Yummy Yellow. Going to add water to that. Take a little drop. I'm going to wipe off my brush because I have green on it. Grabbing the Yummy Yellow, but with lots of water. And I'm just going to, at the bottom here, add a little bit of yellow from the bottom. It's kind of where the seeds are. Then I'm going to dry my brush off, add a little bit of the Mostly Melon. And blend that kind of over where my yellow is. I'll make it almost like an orangey yellow glow. It's a little dark there. Okay, it's because I didn't use my thicker brush. And then I'll just blend that a little bit up more. And that just makes it kind of a dual tone color. It's hard to see on camera, but I wanted it pretty pale. It just adds like a second tone onto the strawberry. I'm just going to wipe down my palette. This is pretty, we're almost done here. Close up my lid for my Mostly Melon. Again, going in with my Rich Rust. And with my thinner brush, going to pick up color. And I'm going to add in my streaks with this. If you want something really dark, like Debbie pointed out, you could maybe use your re-inkers. I'm going to get pretty concentrated color. You could always water it down though with some water or some alcohol. Now this is going to look a little streaky at first and kind of weird, but once you add the yellow, a little bit of yellow over top, it won't. It'll help blend it a little bit. I want the streaks just because that added a bit of texture to my flower. And I'm going to take some Yummy Yellow, a little bit of water, because I don't want it to be like super strong yellow. Maybe. I think my bottle's breaking. Feel that petal, feels still a little bit wet, so I might end up having to wait a few more moments. I can add some yellow into here though. You can always heat set it too, but you know what? We're going to go in. I think it's dry enough. And I'm just glazing over the top of the whole petal, starting at the base there. I'm just trying to leave the end a little bit lighter. But as you can see, because this is dried now, you're not going to get blending necessarily. You need wet on wet to blend. Once our inks dry, they do stay and put because they are waterproof. but it is kind of nice that you can kind of glaze a color over top. And some of you might wonder, why did you do this instead of just watercoloring? I just wanted you guys to have another thing you could do with your Kraftin Kimmie inks. Normally, yes, I would watercolor and feel a little bit more comfortable with watercolors than I do doing this technique. But I think just like anything, anytime you do a new technique, practice makes perfect. Am I as happy as I am on my first one? No, things are going to always be slightly different. But this looks a lot better than I think my class one did. So I'm happier with it than that class one was. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more rich rust. I did add some water into the middle there so that the rich rust will kind of blend a little bit. And then again, just dabbing this in. And because there's water added down, it'll flow a little bit more. Soften that up a bit, but blend the ink a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to try and blend this into the middle too. Okay, so I'm happier with that flower. Still not, maybe I did use, I wonder if I did use this like a middle color, like a mellow mustard on my sample one. This is a little less vibrant, but that's okay. Our paper that we used for the class has pretty pale yellow colors. So, you know, it's fine that my flower isn't quite vibrant. It's a little bit more pale. I'm going to zoom out now. The only thing we have left to do, we have to wait for this to dry. But once it's dry, oh, I did make my center a little dark there, but that's okay. Just going to zoom out. Sorry, don't mean to make you seasick. I'm just gonna let that dry, and then what I do is I put a little bit of alcohol on a Q-tip and I go over our embossed lines because they have a little bit of ink on them right now. Like this one's dry, so I can just show you quickly. Just taking a little bit of alcohol, dabbing Q-tip in it, and I'm just gonna quickly just go over the lines. Don't want to over blend, or you don't want to over saturate what you did, because the alcohol could pick up your color quite a bit. But what this is doing is it's just brightening up your embossing back to white in case you got some ink on it. There, and if you leave it for a few seconds, it'll dry, and then I'll just push this up so you can hopefully see. Oop, up if I'm on camera. So now you can see your white embossing, like the seeds really show up. Before, it might have been hard to see because it's a pale color, but if you have too dark of a color down there, it can sometimes overlap your embossing, and then you won't necessarily see the white anymore. Thanks, Kim. I made that center a little too dark, so what you can do on my flower here, sorry, is you can take a little tissue and you can dab away some of that ink. And then what I did in my sample one, it looks like I went in with like a dark rim here. I'm just gonna leave it today. I'm pretty happy overall with that. It's better than, again, I'll show you the comparison between the two. This one's more pale, for sure. But also, if you can tell, my petals were getting very muddy on my one that I did the other day. They're more vibrant, for sure, but I just found like I was starting to get, the brown was starting to make it look not like a pleasant yellow color. Is it horrible? No, but it wasn't what I was aiming for. and things weren't blending because I wasn't using my techniques properly. This one's a bit more blended. I still got some shading on it. It'll look a little bit different, but that looks a little bit more like a watercolor look. So I'm just about done. I'm just going to add that alcohol to this, and then I'm going to glue it to my card and send it over to my grandmother. I don't think anyone's here anymore, and that's fine. I'm just about done. If you're catching the replay, you're confused by what I did, let me know. Like I said, just by doing this, it'll add the white embossing and make it pop if you got any ink on it. Oops, I missed the stem here. Thanks, Kim. Thanks for letting me redo it too. I missed over here on this stem, so I'm just going to add some more of the fresh field in there. All right. Try not to go over where you just have your ink, because that's wet, but okay. And that just makes everything kind of pop. So taking your card base that you made in class 4, if you decided you're going to wait to see me redo this, I'm just going to glue this on and then it's done. Do I want to glue or do I want to pop dot it? I think I want to glue it down. Maybe. Come on, glue. There we go. Oops. When you go to glue your flower down, one thing I forgot to mention is because it pops off a little bit from the sorry, my glue is like, must need to clean that nozzle off. Up, you try not to, I did add some glue accidentally up here, so I'm just going to try to wipe it off a little bit. Once this glue dries, it doesn't get too tacky, so that's why I like it. Maybe I'll add a pop dot just because the glue is not gluing down. You don't want to add, basically you don't want to add any glue or any pop dots up here, because then it's going to show when you open the card, or it's going to stick where we don't want it. So I'm just going to add a few. Oops. Oh boy. Also make sure your image is turned the right way. Jeez. And of course these glue dots are very sticky, so they're saying don't make sure you don't put any glue on the top. That's where I put my glue, my pop dots. It's early yet. But I wanted to do this morning so I wasn't interrupting any of the other Monday classes that might be going on. And then again, there's no glue here, just so that it doesn't, you can't see it through the, on this side, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's the card all done now. And again, you can decide, I may add a second pop dot just underneath there. Just doubling it up since, oh, don't do that. There. Just since that layer was already pop dotted up. And then now it's more stable. Okay, so that's done. thank you anyone who joined. Have a lovely Monday, and thanks for letting me redo this. Have a great day. Thanks, Kim.